Imagine an ordinary night, a Christian mother sleeping peacefully, until suddenly her dream is invaded by a special presence. It's Carlo Acutis, the young saint who so admired faith, and he appears in her sleep with a serious but loving expression. Bluntly, he looks into her eyes and in a calm but urgent voice says, "Get ready." Just those words, a clear, direct warning like a sign from heaven. And upon awakening, she feels a strength, a conviction that something very important is coming. If you believe the signs of the times are being fulfilled, subscribe now. This channel is your spiritual compass for the last days. The Bible warns us in Matthew 24 verse 42, "Watch, for you know neither the day nor the hour." But what does it really mean to watch today? How did the saints understand this call? The answer lies in our faith in the Eucharist, which is the anchor of the end times. When Jesus speaks of vigilance, he calls us to be attentive to spiritual signs, to proof that we are living in the final moments of a great purification. Carlo Acutis' prophecy did not come by chance. It echoes what saints and seers have warned about throughout history, an unprecedented crisis, a tribulation that will test our faith. Carlo Acutis was not the only one to receive messages from heaven. From Fatima to La Salette, passing through St. Pio and St. Faustina, many saw the signs and heeded divine warnings. All these revelations point to a period of trial, of persecution of the Church, and of the need for fervent prayer. The patterns repeat themselves: moments of silence, of supernatural signs, of calls to conversion. And on each of these occasions, the hearts of the saints are filled with hope, for they know that God is greater than evil. Why the emphasis on the Eucharist? Because it is the true refuge in times of darkness. Carlo was not speaking of dates but of spiritual signs. The date of your dream, the word prepare, is not coincidental. It is a divine code, the beginning of the great purification, the moment when humanity will be called to decide between light and darkness. In the signs that surround us, technology, persecution, moral crises, God gives us the opportunity to strengthen our faith, to strengthen our prayers, and to seek strength in the presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Don't wait for chaos to arrive to act. Start today, pray the Rosary as a family, participate in Mass with faith, silence your heart before adoration, teach your children to recognize false doctrines. The enemy acts cunningly, trying to distance us from God, but Christ offers us victory, hope, and protection. Each step of conversion is a weapon against the approaching darkness. Carlo promised, "No young person who calls upon me with faith will be left without my help." You are not alone in this battle. Heaven is at war for you and victory has already been won on the cross. Prepare. Be vigilant. Pray. Heaven is closer than you think. If you feel God has brought you here, support this ministry with a super thanks, or subscribe and activate the bell. The next videos will bring even more urgent signs and revelations that can change your life. Don't miss out. The time to prepare is now because the end times are accelerating, and the light of Christ needs to shine brighter in your heart. In the stillness of a silent dawn, Antonia Acutis woke with a start, her heart racing. She saw Carlo's presence before her, not as a distant memory, but as an intense light illuminating the room. His eyes were filled with urgency, and in a soft yet mysterious voice, he spoke only one sentence: "Mother, prepare yourself." Then, like a message from above, he disappeared, leaving in Antonia's soul a sequence of numbers and words that she could never forget. Something important, something that would change everything. Have you ever felt like God was trying to warn you about something? That, through dreams, signs, or even the words of a loved one, he wants to awaken your attention? Do you believe that certain seemingly ordinary dates hide spiritual codes? That heaven is trying to communicate a message that goes beyond our human comprehension? It's no coincidence that these moments of revelation happen when we're most vulnerable or distracted. God is calling us to urgent preparation. Why did Carlo choose this particular night? Why did Carlo Acutis choose this date to manifest himself? What did he know about what was to come? There is a secret hidden in the silence of the stars, a password that only heaven understands, which unlocks a sacred archive about the end times. And why was this message only revealed after his death? What is the meaning behind these numbers, these coded words? There is a connection to current events, a prediction that points to an unprecedented spiritual crisis, fast approaching. In this video you will discover exactly what Carlo Acutis predicted about the persecution of the Eucharist, the crisis of families, the generation lost in social media, and, above all, what you need to do to protect yourself from this approaching darkness. You will understand why all of this is related to signs that are already before us, and what God expects of each of us at this crucial moment. If you feel this message was no coincidence, if there is an inner voice calling you to prepare, sign up now. The next few minutes will reveal secrets that Carlo has kept from the world. Until today. Secrets that can save your soul, your family, your faith. Heaven is at war, and this battle is for your eternal future. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. The time to act is now. Since ancient times, God has used dreams as a bridge between heaven and earth. In the Bible, we find clear examples of this divine communication. Joseph in Egypt interpreting dreams that saved a nation, Daniel receiving visions that revealed future events, and more recently the apparitions of Our Lady at Fatima and La Salette, which brought messages of warning and hope to humanity. The Church has always recognized that God, in His mercy, speaks to us through supernatural means, especially when the world turns away from Him. In the end times, this form of communication becomes even more evident, because God doesn't shout, He whispers. But in the last days, even divine whispers seem to transform into thunder, evidence that we are reaching a turning point where God's mercy and justice meet. Prophetic dreams are not mere divination or superstition. These are graces of state, gifts granted by God to certain saints and seers, who act as messengers from on high. As happened with Joseph, who was elevated to the dignity of interpreting dreams for the Pharaoh, or with Daniel, who received revelations that changed the history of the people of Israel, today there are also people who have received special messages, signs that warn us of what is to come. Carlo Acutis is one such example. He was not just an ordinary young man, but someone who, even after his death, continues to speak to us through dreams, signs, and coded messages. These gifts do not come by chance. They are requests for God's love so that we can be vigilant, prepared for difficult times. You too can be warned by God. Perhaps not in dreams as clear as those of Joseph or Carlo, but through intuitions in your heart, unique encounters, readings that seem to speak directly to you. The problem is that we are deaf. Our routine, the noise of the world, the distraction of social media, all of this makes it difficult for God to reach us. Carlo came to teach us to listen, to open our hearts to perceive the signs from heaven, which have always been God's way of guiding and saving us. And this hope that God speaks to His faithful is not just new in the Church. It is confirmed by saints, visionaries, and even the Vatican itself. In recent times, God has raised up a generation of young saints, called to illuminate the dark paths of the world. And Carlo Acutis, with his life and messages, is the first of these modern beacons. He is a sign that God does not abandon His children, especially in times of greatest crisis. The signs are there, growing in intensity, calling us to conversion and prayer. Now that you understand why God speaks through dreams, prepare to hear what Carlo Acutis revealed, and why the Vatican hasn't yet revealed everything. Throughout history, God has always raised up figures of spiritual authority to warn and guide His people in their most critical moments. In 1917, Our Lady of Fatima warned, "In the last days Satan will make his home in the Church," a message that resonates to this day, reinforcing that the final moments will be marked by an intense spiritual battle. Earlier, in 1846, in the apparition of La Salette, the Virgin warned, "Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist." These words, confirmed by saints and visionaries, are like beacons illuminating the way in the darkness of our times. And now, in 2020, surprisingly, a young saint still living among us, Carlo Acutis, whispers from heaven, "The Eucharist will be the only refuge." His message is not coincidental, but a confirmation that we are in the final stretch of time, where true strength resides in the presence of Christ in the Blessed Sacrament. Saint Padre Pio in 1965 revealed to the Vatican, "A time will come when the young will be the only faithful remaining." This prediction of an all but extinct fidelity is echoed in Carlo Acutis's message, which saw young people as soldiers of light in an invisible war. Saint Faustina in her diary wrote, "Jesus showed me the young people of the end times, few but burning like embers beneath the ashes." These words remind us that even in the midst of darkness, God reserves a faithful remnant, young people who will not be overcome by fear or false doctrines, but who will stand firm in the Eucharist and prayer. Carlo Acutis did not create a new message. He merely repeated and deepened what the saints had already announced. He echoed what has been revealed over the centuries, that the end times will be an intense spiritual war, waged especially on social media, in schools, and in homes. Young people, called to be soldiers in the final battle, will need a firm anchor, the Eucharist, to resist the enemy's temptations and lies. And that's precisely why he left the file with the password October 10, 2020, the date the Church officially recognized His holiness. It wasn't a mere coincidence. It was a sign that God's time is coming, and that the time for preparation is now. The file in fact wasn't his but heaven's, a spiritual testament to those who live what Carlo foresaw, a call to vigilance and prayer. I want to know from you, which of these prophecies scares you the most? Or which fills you with hope? Comment, Carlo, intercede for us, and share what God has shown your heart in the face of these signs. Your faith and prayer can be the key to getting through these turbulent times, trusting in the Lord's protection and the strength of the Eucharist. But why did Carlo choose the Eucharist as his anchor for the end times? Why did Carlo Acutis appear in a dream? Why was the date October 10, 2020 etched in his story? And why did he promise to help young people facing depression, addiction, and rebellion? These questions seem simple, but they hide a profound mystery that heaven wants to reveal to each of us. Because heaven does not speak by chance. Every detail, every symbol, every message is a code of love sent from the throne of God to touch your heart. The date October 10, 2020, for example, is no coincidence. In the Bible, the number 10 represents law, responsibility, and commitment to the Lord. It is the number that signals the covenant, the new beginning. The 10th month, when Noah saw dry land after the flood, symbolizes the moment of a new beginning, of renewed hope. And 2020? The year of great isolation, when the entire world was forced to close the doors of churches, schools, and families. In this time of silence, Carlo opened his archive, a kind of code from heaven, a hidden message for those with spiritual eyes to decipher. Many see Carlo merely as an internet saint, a young man who achieved fame on social media and who therefore seems distant from our reality. But those with spiritual eyes realize that he is much more than that. He is the first holy prophet of the digital age, sent by God to guide young people through the chaos of the networks. Using the same tools the enemy uses to destroy, Carlo becomes a beacon of light, an invisible intercessor who combats the darkness of the virtual world. He not only foresaw what was to come, he promised to help. No young person who calls upon me with faith will be left without my help. And this promise is not a simple word of hope. It is a guarantee that he is active, that he is interceding for you, for your family, for your children, even now in this silence of heaven. This changes everything. Your vision of faith, your relationship with technology, your protection against the enemy's snares. Carlo is not just a young saint. He is God's messenger to raise a generation of spiritual warriors in the digital age. He is your invisible ally, your heavenly friend who, with prayer and trust, walks by your side. That file sealed by the Spirit, that dream you received, are all part of a greater plan, a project of mercy that God wants to accomplish in your life. Now that you understand the reason for all this, the question remains, what will you do from now on? How to prepare. How to protect your family, your faith, your heart. How to use technology like Carlo, to save lives, to spread the light of Christ, to overcome evil. Carlo didn't come just to warn, he came to teach. And what he taught can be applied today, this week, in this home, in this spiritual war we face. Every detail of the dream, every symbol, is divine instruction for your protection and that of your family. The battle for your heart and the hearts of your children is real, and you need to be prepared like a soldier of Christ, steadfast, vigilant, and determined to overcome the darkness. First step, every night before bed, pray a Hail Mary for each of your children, even if they are far away, even if they seem lost. Carlo promised, I will be especially attentive to them. Don't underestimate the power of a simple prayer said with faith. It is your shield, your armor against the enemy's attacks on your children's lives. Second step, choose one day a week to spend a holy hour before the Eucharist, in person or online. This is your spiritual bunker, your safe haven from the onslaught of evil. When you draw closer to the body of Christ, you strengthen your spirit, renew your strength to fight, and resist the world's temptations and deceptions. Make this a priority, an unbreakable line of defense. Third step, review what your children consume online. Swap 30 minutes of empty entertainment for 10 minutes of family prayer. Teach them to recognize the false doctrines that try to undermine their faith. Don't accept content that steals the peace of your soul. Block, delete, protect. Technology is not the enemy. It is your weapon of salvation if used wisely and purposefully. Fourth step, create a digital altar. Save videos, messages, and prayers that strengthen your faith and that of your children. Follow channels that speak of truth, God's love, and the Eucharist. Block content that spreads fear, heresy, or distracts you from what is essential. Your digital home can be a sacred battlefield, where the light of Christ prevails. Fifth step, teach your children to recognize false doctrines. If something contradicts the truth of the Church, the dignity of the Eucharist, or the life God created, It does not come from God. Be firm, be vigilant. Formation in faith is your best defense against the enemy's lies. You don't need to be a theologian to do this. You just need to be faithful. Carlo chose you to hear this today because he knows you are capable of resisting. He is by your side, interceding, fighting for you, your family, your soul. If this message touched your heart and gave you a plan of action, please like it right now. This helps spread this light to others who, like you, are on the front lines of this battle. Share, pray, rise with courage. And after all this, after the steps, the prayers, the decisions, there remains one final truth that Carlo saved for last. A truth that will forever change the way you see your mission in this world. Victory is certain if you are prepared. The light of Christ never goes out, but it needs you, your faithfulness, your prayers, your courage. Heaven has already sent its youngest warrior. Now it's time for you to rise and fight with faith, hope, and love. Carlo Acutis is not just a saint. He is a general of the end times, a sentinel of heaven sent to lead our generation in this final battle. And he chose you to hear this message because there is a mission written in your name, a task that only you can fulfill. Every detail of the dream, every word of his warning, reveals that the Lord is calling you to be a warrior of light in this decisive hour. You were chosen by God at this very moment to be an instrument of salvation, a bearer of hope and a soldier of prayer. After today you are no longer the same. Your vision has been expanded, your heart has been touched by a truth that many do not want to see. You now know what is coming. You know that the spiritual battle is real, that the forces of evil are all around you trying to steal your peace, your faith, your hope. But you also know that you are not alone. Carlo is with you. Maria is with you. All of heaven is at war for you, for your family, for every soul God has entrusted to your hands. And this awareness must move you to action. Don't keep this revelation to yourself. Share it with that friend who is lost, with that mother who mourns her child, with the brother who has strayed from God's love. Engrave in your heart that holiness is not a distant illusion. It is possible even now, even here, in your home, in your family, in your heart. Each of us is called to be light in this darkness, and Carlo's example shows us that faithfulness to the end is our greatest weapon. Imagine Carlo on the right side of Jesus' throne looking at you now. He smiles with the face of one who knows your challenges, your doubts, but also your courage. He knows what you face, and with a whisper from heaven, he tells you, I promised, and I am fulfilling. Trust me. This promise is not just a fleeting hope. It is a guarantee that even in the most difficult struggle, heaven is attentive to your every prayer, your struggle, your every sacrifice. So rise with faith. Rise with courage. Because you were made to overcome. You were made to endure. And God, in His mercy, sent Carlo to your side to strengthen you in this hour. Now is the time to take on your mission. To bring light where there is darkness, to be a bridge between heaven and earth, to make a difference in this generation that cries out for salvation. If you feel that God brought you here for a purpose, if your soul was touched by this message, support this work. Use the super thanks button, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. Because the next videos will bring even more urgent signs, revelations that can save lives, souls that depend on your courage to find their way back to God's heart. Receive this blessing with faith. Feel the embrace of heaven, the presence of Carlo by your side, and hear the whisper of the Holy Spirit. Trust, I am with you. Victory is certain because Christ has overcome the world.